Sega has never shied away from merchandising all their characters, especially from the Sonic franchise. And that includes Rouge the Bat. There's been a lot of merchandise that's seen her face over the years. From keychains, including the keychain on my current keys, to pins, to even big old plushes like this. Like, there's never been a shortage of Rouge the Bat merchandise. But there is one extremely notable thing that a lot of people have always wanted, but has only ever been done one time. I have found my white whale. Yep, it is Toy Island's Rouge the Bat figure. I call her my white whale because I have spent a fairly large portion of my adult life seeking this toy. She was released at retail for a very brief period of time, close to the end of Toy Island's original run on the Sonic toy line, back when Sonic X was the thing that was being licensed instead of anything from the Sonic video games. And she just never appeared in any stores near where I lived. She never even showed up in any conventions that I went to around that time. And I went to like Anime Boston and Icon, and I even did go to Comic-Con back then, but no booths ever had her. Like, this figure was so rare, I started to doubt that it ever actually existed. But just a few days ago, I was able to find one on eBay. She was scuffed and dirty. Even then, she still cost me $80, but I managed to argue the seller down from $120, so I'm taking that as a win. And once she got here, I cleaned up her white parts, and I gave her scuffed up pink parts a fresh coat of paint. I know that probably destroyed whatever remaining collector value she might have had, but I would much rather have a beautiful figure that's worthless than a really valuable piece of crap. So, yes, this is Toy Island's Rouge the Bat figure, and to this day, the only official Rouge action figure ever made. And she kind of reminds me why I hated the Toy Island figures, because she pretty much is not a very good figure, and she embodies every problem I ever had with that toy line. So first of all, let's talk about the toy real quick. She has 5 basic points of swivel articulation. Her head can rotate, and it's made out of a softer material than the rest of her body. It's like a vinyl-y material, while her body is made out of that really stiff, hard plastic that the rest of Toy Island's figures are made out of. She has swivel cuts at the shoulders, although you gotta be careful. There were scuff marks on the insides of her gloves because every time you lift them up, they scrape against the sides of her boobs, and that created scuffing. And she has 2 points of swivel articulation at the legs, although, like, not very useful for any kind of posing because of the weird angles that they're attached at. Yeah, this is, again, I've always said this. I say this every time I see the Ninja Turtles action figures villains, and I will always say it for as long as toy companies keep doing it. It does not work when you when your figure is in a pre-assumed sculpted stance, it renders limited articulation like that completely pointless. And her neutral stance is like, okay, her neutral stance. You know that stance. It's the Rouge the Bat stance. Let me get her arm out of the way so you can see what I'm talking about. See that? Leaning forward with the back heavily arched. She's in that exact pose to show off her butt and her cleavage at the same time. Yes, I know this was a very common pose for Rouge to take in the games because she's always trying to be seductive no matter what situation she's in. But this, like, you see something here, like, there's nothing back there, and yet the figure is extremely difficult to stand because when you have the feet flat on the ground, the way her weight is shifted is still so far back because she's pooching her butt out so far that it just doesn't work. You know what they did? They referenced the stance that she has in the 2D artwork. You know how things look in the 2D artwork where one foot's out to the side and the other foot is more forward so you can see all the details of the shoes? That works all well and good for a profile picture so you can show off what the character looks like, but when you actually try to make that in 3 dimensions, like, it just doesn't work. They needed to sculpt her legs in such a way that her feet were actually under her, not just reference a pose. Like, did they actually do any testing of the figure when they prototyped it? Like, to make sure it was okay to display and stand? Okay, nobody breathe. Like, darn it. You see, it just doesn't work. So I'm just gonna lean it back against my backdrop so she won't go falling over and I can continue talking about her. Alright, so like I said, the articulation is basically useless because of the pre-assumed stance, and it's difficult to actually get her to stand because of the pre-assumed stance. But aside from that, this actually is a really nice rendering of the character. She looks good. I just don't understand why the tampographic of her eye makeup appears to be off-center, but that might just be for shine purposes. Aside from a really unattractive seam on the bottom of her chin, the sculpt on her head is pretty magnificent. She has all 6 of her hair points, her ears are nice and big, and everything looks good. Below that, she has her giant rouge D cups. Like, sometimes people, I wonder if I made her boobs a little too big when I make custom figures of her, but you know what? Nope. Looks like I've been right all along. They are large and they hang pretty heavily. Of course, like I said, she has that stance, that curved spine look to make her to send her butt out as much as possible. And below that you have the shoes. Now, like I said, this is really, really nicely sculpted. And it does represent that, at least in capturing the character's look, Toy Island was improving. For some reference, I do have some of my Toy Island figures from before. This is one of the early ones, the Wave 1 Tails and the Wave 1 Knuckles. These were some of the first toys that Toy Island made, like right around the time that Sonic Adventure was coming out. So, the first toys and the last toy. You see how they had gone leaps and bounds in actually making the toys look like the character rather than some bloated balloon animal caricature. And of course, when I bring in my Eggman figure, you can see that they learned absolutely nothing about stances, because like some weird thing where to show off the side of the shoe and the front of the shoe at the same time, which again works for promotional art, not so much for an actual toy, because this ridiculous stuff renders leg articulation completely pointless. I mean, at least, no, you know what? It is pointless. Eggman can't stand without his feet being like this. He may as well not have leg articulation. And Rouge, like, I really have a hard time getting this figure to stand because of the way her feet are sculpted. They did not think it through. So yeah, like I literally spent as much on this figure as I did on that Maiton custom that was the Explorer from the that custom Maiton figure I had. It's in my collection. I don't want to go get it right now. So yeah, like, this is the most expensive Sonic figure I have. Like I own figures that are more valuable than her, but this is the most I spent on one. Like $80, and this is what I got for it. It is cool that I can now claim to have the actual factual Rouge the Bat action figure. It's just that I wish the Rouge the Bat action figure was better. So I guess the only way I can really end this now is to show off some of my custom attempts at making the Rouge the Bat figure. Like my first figure made to blend in with the Jazzwares line. And of course my most recent Rouge custom made to blend in with Tomi's line. You know, like maybe I didn't capture the sculpting quite as well, but at least my figures can stand and have better articulation, and at least blend in well enough with existing toy lines. But you know what? Just to show off that I am a true blue Rouge the Bat fanboy, let's bring out something that a lot of you have probably forgotten. My custom Rouge Transformer. Yeah, something that can actually stand side by side with her because it's the same height. And there we go. Showing off what you can do with some articulation there. Yeah, I brought this out just because I'm pretty sure by now a lot of people forgot that I ever made this figure. So just wanted to show off a little thing. So although we don't know when Tomy is going to get around to making a Rouge figure, if they do, from what I've seen with Zavok and Infinite, and what they've already done with Metal Sonic and some other characters, it seems that Tomy is going to start going down the line of giving their figures pre-assumed poses. And that worries me, because I'm afraid that when Tomy finally gets around to making another Rouge, it's going to be this story all over again. Like, a really good sculpt and rendition of the figure rendered pretty badly because of a bad pre-assumed pose. Like, I still can't get over how difficult it is to make this figure stand. I mean, look at this. Look at where her feet are in relation to the rest of her body. Despite the fact that this character has no head spines like Sonic or anybody else, and should be a really easy to stand figure, this ridiculous arch they've given her so she can pooch out her butt as much as possible has rendered the figure very difficult to stand. And I absolutely hate that. Although I'm starting to think that if they ever do make a real Rouge figure, they're going to have to give her an ab crunch articulation so that you can arch her back more, because I'm pretty sure this is kind of an iconic thing for her to do at this point. I mean, prove me wrong, but yeah. I'm pretty sure any official Rouge figure that would be perfect for the fans is going to have to be able to do that. Alright, so this is Wake Angel 2001, and, well, I caught one of my white whales. I mean, I don't think I have any other white whale figures out there, but, yeah. A 10-year-long search. 10 long years. Finally got her. Signing off.